to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
And welcome into the Friday edition of the Cody Talks NFL show. I hope you guys are having a great week as we head into this weekend. I'm excited about this weekend's action of football. Tons of great games already. Tons of divisional stances are on the line, conference stances on the line. And I'm just ready for Sunday to be here. But we had a big week as far as NFL news. If you guys have been a listener of my show over this season, you would know that about week and a half, 2 weeks, it's kind of been really quiet on the news. My news section's been quiet. My shows have I've noticed my time on my shows have been a lot shorter too, mainly because there hasn't been a lot of talk about. Well, this is going to be a kind of a beefy episode. Normally I start with 3 different news topics. I'm actually just going to go ahead and have 2. One's because the Rams made a bunch of trades that involved them. And then the other, obviously, you guys, might be a star that got injured in last night that's going to have a major impact on the outcome of this season. And I'm going to go ahead and dive into it. And so all started on Tuesday. Rams started a crazy trade frenzy. It all started off with the Marcus Peters. They decided to trade their young cornerback to the Baltimore Ravens. In return, they got linebacker Kenny Young and a 2021 fifth-round pick. As far as how this benefits the teams, obviously the Baltimore defense gets a lot better with Marcus Peters. He's kind of been inconsistent this year with his play. He still has tons of talent. This also helps the Rams because basically the Rams were going to let him go this offseason. His contract's up, so they weren't going to pay him. It made sense for them to move on, especially with who they got later on in the day. But yeah, he makes the Baltimore defense a lot better. We'll see if he can get acclimated to the system, and he is expected to play against the Seahawks on Sunday. And then as far as Kenny Young's a young linebacker. He's kind of got some potential. The Rams need help at that spot, so it makes sense that they added a depth piece, and then obviously they get a draft pick in return. So this trade was a kind of a win-win situation for both sides of it. And then later on in the afternoon, news dropped Jalen Ramsey. He finally did get traded. The Rams did go ahead and traded a 2020 first-round pick, a 2021 first-round pick, a 2021 fourth-round pick to get Jalen Ramsey. Kind of a lot of capital, but you got to make moves like this. I understand some people questioning this move, but the way I view it, it is a win-win situation. Ramsey wanted out. The Rams not only got Jalen Ramsey, but they upgraded their cornerback. He's definitely an upgrade over Marcus Peters, and they got another year out of him because his contract isn't up till the 2021 season after that next year. So I like the move by both sides. With how the NFC is looking right now, you have to take a risk to make this happen. There's tons of first place. Teams over 500, and Rob, who's a Rams fan, wanted me to remind you guys that our last first-round pick was Jared Goff. So they're going a long time without first-round picks, but when you got tons of talent, you got to hit on the later round draft picks, which they have actually somewhat. So as long as they can hit on those, it will count to them. But obviously, without the draft capital, they do risk their future. But this could pay off and get them back in the thick of things for the NFC. And then lastly, the Rams were done on just acquiring Ramsey on the day. They also they acquired Austin Corbett from the Browns. They traded a 2021 fifth-round pick. I'm not sure if that's the same pick they got back from Baltimore. But Austin Corbett, the Rams need help at their offensive line. Corbett has been a major disappointment since his career. He was the 33rd pick of the 2018 draft. So maybe a different scheme, maybe a change of scenery can help him reach his potential. So I do like that move to at least address the position and see if he can help them out in the future. And then Rob asked if he's going to be moved to guard. I think that's the plan, especially with the Joe Noteboom injury, and I think that's where he should be more comfortable at, anyways. In my opinion, is at the guard position. And then to go ahead and move in, basically I'm going to kind of group this together. The Thursday night football the Chiefs beat the Broncos surprisingly, 30-6. The reason why I say surprisingly is, as you guys know, Patrick Mahomes suffered a dislocated kneecap last night. It was brutal. The replay showed them basically putting it back into to its proper place, kind of throw up worthy, I guess you could say. But the news came out this morning. He's expected to miss at least the next 3 weeks. With that, there's some real optimism that he can play through the ailment after that. The MRI will confirm if there's any ligament damage. Obviously the MRI will confirm more of an exact timetable. The MRI is supposed to be done at 12 p.m. Central Time. So honestly, by the time you're probably listening this, the news of the exact injuries will be out by then, so you have a better idea. But just to kind of give you guys more of a scope into the Chiefs' future without him. So the expectation is that he's going to miss at least the next 3 weeks. So that means the Chiefs will be without him against the Packers at home. At home against the Vikings, they'll be missing him. And then they go on the road against the Titans without Patrick Mahomes. Now, if he's able to return, they got a away game at the Chargers. But after the Chargers, there's a bye week. So I feel like maybe it will depend on how the Chiefs play without him in those 3 games. It will probably depend on how the rest of the AFC conference playoff picture is turning out. But I feel like if they're still like in the playoff picture, they might rest him that week against the Chargers and give him that bye week. And then after the bye week on December 1st, that's when they'll face the Raiders at home. So in my opinion, I'm not no doctor, guys, so this is really uneducated. I feel like the target date will be December 1st against the Raiders, as long as they're in the playoff picture and they don't drop like 4 straight games. But if they drop 4 straight games, I mean, they'll still be 5-6. They're sitting at a 5-2 record. Obviously, the Packers and Vikings game, that's going to be really difficult to beat without Patrick Mahomes. I think if they can get competent quarterback play, maybe they have a chance against the Titans and Chargers. But they got to probably have. I mean, they don't want to expect. Obviously, teams expect to win, but I would expect they're going to lose at least 2 games, go drop into like 5-4, and then I guess they'll have to try to evaluate things after the Titans injury. Like I said, who knows where this will be after the news comes out this afternoon. But the expectation is 3 games. Matt Moore replaced him last night. Matt Moore looked competent, which, I mean, he's a veteran quarterback. He's been here before. If anybody remembers a few years ago when the Dolphins made the playoffs, Ryan Tannehill got hurt at some point in the season, and Matt Moore filled in for him, helped them win games, and helped them go to the playoffs. So, but it's been a few years since that. He came off the streets. He was actually a Dolphin scout over the past off season until this point. So, I mean, he's a guy that can do enough to get them wins. I don't know if they try to go get somebody. Obviously, if there's news that Mahomes is done for the season, maybe they look into a trade market. I mean, maybe they go rent Marcus Mariota from the Titans. I don't know. Maybe Andy Reid could have fun with that. Rob said Fitzpatrick, and for once, actually, I know you've been trying to get him out of Miami, Rob. I actually agree. I actually had that thought last night. I'm like, well, shoot, Fitzpatrick ain't afraid to just sling it and try to win games. So maybe that, but obviously I'm going to talk about Fitzpatrick is now starting for the Dolphins, so who really knows what Miami's doing down there. But yeah, who knows? They might explore a trade market. That's going to be something to monitor going forward. But I don't know. Matt Moore helped them get the win last night, so maybe they just roll with him at least for 1 week. Who knows? They might bring somebody in. That's something to monitor going forward. As far as the game, though, the Chiefs, their defense played. They got after Flacco, sacked him enough. Flacco's just a statue. I thought I had more belief, not in Flacco, but more belief in this Broncos team heading into this matchup, and that the little belief I had that they could be a good team went away. I mean, they had the opportunity to win this game when Mahomes went down with the injury, and they end up getting stomped down. They could not produce. They fall to a 2-5 record. Drew Lock is set to come off the IR in the coming weeks, so I assume as soon as Drew Lock's back, they need to put Lock in there and see what they got from the guy. And then other than that, like the Chiefs just handle their business. They go to 5-2, and obviously I touched upon how I feel. And it'll tune into Monday's episode because obviously there's big news with the Mahomes injury, whether it's long term or short term. I'll probably touch upon that on my Monday episode, especially if they sign somebody. And Rob reminded me Flacco's game is most sacks in his career, and that does not help that he doesn't have really two good tackles. But at the end of the day, he was holding the ball way too long and trying to scramble way too much. And I'm going to go ahead and head into the bye teams. The Carolina Panthers, no news with them. Nothing came out. So obviously we're going to see what happens with the Cam Newton situation. Peter Schrager came out last night and Cam Newton, he said the names, I guess I should have threw this in my news. I'll just go ahead and say it. But on the Fox pre-show, he said Cam Newton, AJ Green, and Trent Williams are supposedly guys that won't be traded at all. We'll see. It's just a report, so I'm taking it with a grain of salt. But we'll see, obviously, with the Panthers next week where they're going to go with Cam Newton or Kyle Allen, since Cam Newton will be returning to practice here shortly. With the Browns, no major news. Now, John Clayton did report that there was talk of Freddie Kitchens getting fired after the Seahawks loss. So, obviously, if that's getting talked about, his seats are heat up in year one, so he's going to have to get this team rallying behind him coming out of this bye week. Otherwise, who knows how long the Freddie Kitchen era will last in Cleveland. If I had to give any prediction on that, I think they need to at least ride out the year with him. But because I don't know who they would place in front of him. I guess maybe Steve Wilkes or maybe Todd Monken. Maybe they would give the interim head coach job. I think they ride out at least a year. But I think if there is no promise, if there's inconsistency throughout the year, I could see him getting fired at the end of the season. And going into the Steelers, Mason Rudolph did clear concussion protocol, so it looks like he will return after the bye week for the Steelers to try to make that push for the AFC North. No other news came out with Pittsburgh. And then the last bye team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. JPP has returned to practice. Now, they activated the 21-day window, so they have 21 days to activate him to the roster, but he is practicing. I'm not sure if he will return following the bye week, but obviously tune in next week and I will have an update for you as far as where he is at with the Bucs, but he'll provide a much-needed boost to their pass rush for Tampa Bay, and maybe being opposite of Shaquille Barrett, he can help Barrett come back after his little slump he's been in. And I'm going to go ahead and dive into the Sunday games, starting with Miami. Miami's traveling to Buffalo to face the Bills. As I already kind of hinted at when Rob brought up asking about Fitzpatrick to the Chiefs, Fitzpatrick is now starting again for the Miami Dolphins. Josh Rosen went to the bench. Now, I really don't know what Miami's doing because they announced Rosen was going to be a starter for the year. They benched him during the third quarter last week, and now after they said Rosen was going to start, after the game and at some point this week they said Rosen was a starter, but then it came out now Fitzpatrick is. So I have really no clue what's going on. Yes, has Rosen given anything for promise? No, I'll say that, but he has flashed at times, but I mean, how are you supposed to grade somebody when he was on a terrible situation in the Cardinals, and then the Dolphins have not given him a chance to even shine or show any growth on the field? So I feel bad for the kid. Obviously, they want a quarterback next year. They don't have no plans for Rosen in his future. So maybe he is somebody that could get traded at some point. Maybe a team like the Titans could take a flyer on him. Maybe a team like the Bucs should take a flyer on him. I mean, he's at a cost-controlled rookie contract, so you want to have to pay him that much. And honestly, if the Dolphins aren't doing anything, you shouldn't have to really give that much up to get him. So I'd like to see him go in a better situation where he'll have a consistent offensive coordinator that he's going to play with. But other than that, I mean, we'll see where this goes from. And who knows, maybe they decided to bench him because there are teams that are acquiring about him, and they want to keep Rosen healthy so they can get a draft pick out of him. That's a little something to think about. And speaking of trading as well, it came out this week that Kenyon Drake is on the trade block. Is he going to get traded? I don't know. It won't be for much. He's nothing more than a change of pace back to me. that can fill in as a full-time starter if need be. I really don't have a prediction on teams. Running backs could literally go anywhere. A running back could get hurt this week, which can open up opportunities somewhere. So who knows? Who knows where he could go? I mean, you're looking at maybe a fifth-round pick for him at best, and that's at best to maybe a needy team. And then as far as news on the Bills front, there's no news on them. And as far as injuries heading into this game, Dolphins pretty banged up right now. Rashad Jones with his chest and Daniel Kilgore with his knee. Those guys haven't practiced yet this week heading into Friday. And then the following guys have been limited for the Dolphins: Jesse Davis with an elbow, Jakeem Grant with a hamstring, Trent Harris with a foot injury, Xavier Howard with a knee injury, and then Bobby McCain with a hamstring and shoulder injury, and then Mark Walton with a thumb injury, and then Albert Wilson with a calf and hip injury. On the Bills, John Brown's been dealing with a groin injury. He's been limited, and then Matt Milano's been limited with his hamstring injury. As far as how I think this game's going to go, guys, I think the Buffalo's going to handle business. They're coming off a bye. They're relatively healthy. They're at home. They got arguably the best defense in the NFL right now, and the Dolphins suck. It's plain and simple. So I had the Bills smashing the Dolphins at home. I think this is a type of game that Josh Allen can build confidence upon. He should try, do his best and not have to turn over the ball, come out with a big game from Josh Allen. I think Bills handled their business, and they won by 10-plus points in this matchup. And moving on to the next game, Jacksonville is traveling out to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. As far as news, nothing on the Jaguars front, but Cordy Glenn's kind of having a fallout with Cincinnati. He didn't practice on Thursday, and then it came out that to this morning that now they're going to suspend him this game for disciplinary reasons. According to Pro Football Talk, Glenn and a member of the coaching staff got into a heated discussion about the circumstances regarding his return. Glenn was upset about being rushed back from his concussion, and he was fined $200,000 for contract detrimental to the team. And then he went and told Zach Taylor, their head coach, that he wants to be cut. So obviously he wants out. Obviously concussion injury. If a player doesn't think he's ready to return from a concussion and a team's trying to rush him back, that is not a good look. Like this, I'm honestly surprised this is not getting talked about enough. This is kind of similar to the Trent Williams situation with his issues with the Redskins medical staff. So, this is obviously a guy that you can watch possibly getting traded between now and the trade deadline at the end of the month. And now they're going to be missing their left tackle for more likely who knows where this goes from, but this seems like at some point he's going to get cut or traded. There's not been a report about it, but, you can't expect this relationship to be fixed going on forward. And as far as injuries, though, for the matchup, on the Jaguar side, Marquise Lee hasn't practiced with an ankle injury. Jeff Swaim hasn't practiced with a concussion ankle injury. And Dede Westbrook didn't practice yesterday with a shoulder injury. Bengals are all types of banged up, man. Carlos Dunlap has not practiced with a knee injury. A.J. Green hasn't practiced this week with his ankle injury. William Jackson hasn't practiced with a shoulder injury. Drake Kirkpatrick hasn't practiced with his knee injury. Carl Lawson hasn't practiced with his hamstring injury. John Miller hasn't practiced with a groin injury. Andre Smith, who's the replacement for Cordy Glenn, he hasn't practiced with his ankle injury. And then Sean Williams has been limited. Now, this matchup, man, at the beginning of the week, I thought this would be a perfect game for the Bengals to finally get a win. Sometimes teams just fall into wins. I thought this would be a fall into win for them. Jacksonville just traded Ramsey. They've dropped a couple of games, and I was like, you know what? At first, in my pick'ems for Blitzalytics, I picked the Bengals. But after this news about the fall with Cordy Glenn, after looking at the injury report this morning, seeing how banged up their team is, it's hard for me to pick the Bengals. The Bengals have one of the worst rush defenses in the league. They should be able to get Leonard Fournette going. As long as Gardner Minshew doesn't make any mistakes, he should be able to, pick apart the now depleted secondary of the Bengals, because obviously missing William Jackson and Drake Kirkpatrick, their cornerbacks. that's going to hurt. So I know Kirkpatrick's for sure going to miss. We'll see if William Jackson can return to practice maybe today and maybe get out there. But, I mean, I think I could see the Bengals winning just because they are at home. This seems like a game that they could come out with a win. But because of how banged up they are, the drama now around Cordy Glenn, I think the Jaguars find a way to win. But it will be close. I think maybe the Jaguars win like 24-21. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next game. Minnesota's traveling out to Detroit to face the Vikings. No news for either team as far as injuries heading into the matchup. Ben Gideon has yet to practice with his concussion. Riley Leaf was limited with his ankle injury. Josh Klein was limited with his foot injury for the Vikings. With the Lions, Mike Daniels has yet to return to practice with his foot injuries. The following guys were limited: Quandre Diggs with a hamstring injury, Deshaun Hand with the elbow injury, Darius Slay with a hamstring injury. Rick Wagner has been limited with a knee injury. As far as how this game is going to go, NFC North Divisional matchup, it's going to be a close one, guys. I could see either team winning this. I think Detroit's going to come out angry because of all the rep issues that happened Monday night, which led to their loss against the Packers. As we all know, the NFC North is a tight division right now. Every team has at least a 500 record or above. Vikings obviously coming off a huge win. I think the Vikings for the offense, their offense is gelling right now. I think their defense is legit. They're pretty relatively healthy now, the Vikings. I think the Vikings are set to go on a roll. I like what I've seen from the Lions this season. They're going to be competitive. Because it's a divisional matchup, I can see this going either other way. But I'm gonna go with the hot Vikings right now. I'm gonna pick them to win. It will be a close one. I think it could be like a 27-24, maybe even like a 31-28 type win for the Vikings. But I think this game is gonna be a pretty good game. And now I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next game. The Raiders are traveling up to Green Bay to face the Packers. A couple news things on the Raiders front. Something very positive, and then unfortunately something pretty negative. Let's start with the positive. Darren Waller. If anybody watched Hard Knocks, he's one of the quote-unquote stars from the show, resurrection of his career with his past drug habits. He's had a great year for the Raiders. He signed a 3-year extension with them. It's going to be worth around $9 million per year. I just want to say congratulations to that guy. He was able to, anytime you can see somebody turn around their life and get back to what they love about life, their passions, it's something I'm a big believer in. And unfortunately, though, to move on with the news, Trent Brown, his ex-girlfriend accused him of domestic assault in a lawsuit. Now, this isn't in criminal court. This is in a lawsuit, so there can't be like any immediate like disciplinary actions because right now it's accusations. Obviously, Brown has came out and said his ex-girlfriend is improperly accusing him of these. So similar to like that when I was talking about the Antonio Brown stuff, like I don't want to touch upon the he said, she said stuff. Like I want to let the facts play out on the court. Now, obviously, if this comes true, he needs to be suspended from the league. Like I stand firm on belief that any type of domestic assault, domestic violence, that shouldn't be allowed, and there needs to be strict repercussions for it. But I'm also the believer in the judicial system, innocent until proven guilty. How many times have it's been happened before where people were improperly accused of actions? So I want to see this thing play out. But obviously, if he has to miss time because of this, if this comes out like he did this, it's a brutal blow to what has been a much improved offensive line in the Raiders, and obviously they would miss him. And speaking of him, he hasn't practiced this week with a calf injury. There's no word that he's going to get suspended for his assault case. But if he has to miss because of his calf injury, that's going to obviously hurt their chances against Green Bay. Arden Key, though, he has not practiced with a knee injury. Tyrell Williams has yet to return with his foot injury. Dwayne Harris has returned to practice. He's been limited with an ankle injury. Big news, though, too, if they're going to miss Trent Brown, is Gabe Jackson has returned to practice now. He's been limited with his knee injury. LaMarcus Joyner limited with a groin injury. And Darren Waller has been limited with a foot injury this week. Now, the Packers, they're pretty banged up right now. And right now, Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing to basically people that he didn't begin the year with if these guys are all ruled out eventually. today. Devontae Adams has yet to return to practice with his toe injury. Geronimo Allison has yet to practice with a chest and concussion. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has yet to practice this week with an ankle and knee injury. Kenny Clark hasn't practiced with a calf injury. Jimmy Graham has not practiced with an ankle injury. Darnold Savage has not practiced with an ankle injury. Tramon Williams has not practiced with a knee injury. Him himself, obviously this is probably something light because nobody's really talking about it, but Aaron Rodgers has been limited this week with a knee injury, and Kevin King has been limited with a knee and groin injury. Now, all those injuries definitely do scare me for the Packers, but I think if Trent Brown misses this game with his injury and Tyrell Williams is probably going to be out, their number one wide receiver, that has just as big as an impact on the Raiders. Obviously, the Raiders are coming off a bye week. They're going to want to try to establish the ground game with Josh Jacobs. As far as how this game goes, I think if this was like in Oakland, I like the Oakland's chances. But, I mean, I got to give credit with the Oakland. They have won their last 2 games on the road, including that London matchup before their bye week against the Bears. But I think as long as Aaron Rodgers is out there, the Packers got a chance. It really doesn't matter who's at wide receiver. Obviously, we saw the Packers deal with a lot of drops on Monday night, but I think with Aaron Rodgers, the Packers will find a way to win. Now, because of all those injuries, it will be a close matchup. I think this will be a low-scoring matchup. I think the Packers win 21-17, something like that. It'll be a close matchup, but I think at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers will do what it takes to get the job done and lead Green Bay to a victory. Now we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. The Rams are traveling out to Atlanta to face the Falcons. No major news for either team, obviously outside what I covered with the Ramsey trade. With the Rams, though, injury report, no surprise. Jalen Ramsey's back is healed up, and he's not on our injury report. I don't know what their chiropractor is working for the Rams, but I guess if you have back problems, seek him out. With the Rams, though, Clay Matthews has not practiced, obviously, with his jaw injury. Malcolm Brown, the backup running back, has not practiced this week with an ankle injury. Todd Gurley's been limited with a quad injury, so he might be returning. We'll see. That'll be something to monitor with today's reports. On the Falcons side, James Carpenter hasn't practiced with a knee injury. Desmond Trufant has not practiced with a toe injury. Adrian Claiborne has been limited with a knee injury. Julio Jones has been limited with a hip injury, and Ricardo Allen has been limited with a knee injury. As far as this game, how I think it's going to go, this seems like a perfect bounce back, get right game for the Rams offense for Jared Goff. If Gurley comes back, obviously that's going to be a major boost for the offense. Falcons are reeling right now. They cannot save their season for whatever it takes. I think if the Falcons can beat the Rams, that's a real telltale story of how the Rams season is going to go going forward. But I think with this Jalen Ramsey trade, his type of personality, he can give that much needed boost, that much needed energy boost that the Rams need. I feel like the Rams honestly are going to come out and stomp the Falcons. I think they're going to be able to move the ball easily through the air. If Todd Gurley plays, or even if it's not Todd Gurley, if it's Darrell Henderson, I think there's going to be a big play on the run game. Throughout the game, big explosion plays, because that Falcons defense is not that good. I think even if Jalen Ramsey doesn't know the defense, I know how easy it is to say, hey, you see that number 11 over there in the Falcons jersey? Follow him. And wherever he goes, you go. I think that's basically what they're going to do. And if they can eliminate Julio Jones with Ramsey, that's going to help them win. I think the Falcons get smashed, guys. And if they don't get smashed, and the Falcons can turn and be, if this is a trap game for LA, then dang, I won't like LA's chances going forward, especially with how tough the NFC is. We'll go ahead and head on to the next matchup. Big AFC South matchup where basically you could argue the division is on the line early in the season. Houston is traveling up to Indianapolis to face the Colts. With the Texans and Colts, no news, but with the injuries, Titus Howard, of course, he is not practicing with his knee injury. Jonathan Joseph has been limited with his hamstring injury. Bradley Roby's been limited with his hamstring injury. Deshaun Gibson's been limited with a hip and wrist injury. On the Colts front, still a little banged up coming off their bye week. Paris Campbell hasn't practiced with an abdomen injury. Pierre Desir has not practiced with a hamstring injury. Kenny Moore has not practiced with a knee injury. Tyquan Lewis has not practiced with an ankle injury. Eric Ebron was sick yesterday, so he didn't practice. And then Justin Houston didn't practice yesterday with a calf. And then Malik Hooker was limited with a knee injury, so it does look like he's trying to push for a return this week. As far as how this game's going to go, I think it's going to be a really good AFC South matchup. I think these teams have grown in since Deshaun Watson's gotten to the Texans. This has kind of grown into a real rivalry. The teams are going back and forth. They've kind of been splitting the games over the last few years. Colts obviously have won the last two games. Last year they won in December. Then in the playoff matchup, I'm sure drawing that playoff matchup at home has got to be in the back of mind of Houston. I'm sure they're going to want to get some revenge. Obviously, you guys know T.Y. Hilton always feasts on Houston. He usually has his best games of his career against Houston. So that's going to be something I'm sure Houston finally wants to stop. And as far as how I think this matchup's going to go, I think both teams are going to just throw punches at each other all afternoon. Both teams are relatively banged up. These are obviously the tip games when it's against the Texans. T.Y. Hilton, look at his history against Houston. He usually feasts against their secondary, usually has some of his career-type days against Houston. So obviously that's going to be back on Houston's mind. And obviously the loss to the Colts in the playoffs last year at home, it's going to be on the back of their mind. So I think both teams are going to, throw punches all afternoon. Honestly, I can see either team winning this. I think this is going to be a classic AFC type South matchup for the division. I think this is going to come down to a field goal, come down to whoever has the ball last. Since it's at home, and obviously you guys, since I'm a Colts homer, I'm going Colts. Vinatieri hits the game winner, 34-31 type win, maybe even goes to overtime. But I'll say this too, though. I wouldn't be surprised if Deshaun Watson leads a game-winning touchdown drive against the Colts too. Like I said, this can go either way. Deshaun Watson's playing at MVP type level, and when he's playing at that type of level, he is capable of helping Texans win. I still think there's holes on the Texans. Their offensive line has played a lot better. Maybe with Titus Howard being hurt, they're going to go back to their backup tackle. That can maybe open up things for the Colts pass rush. We'll see. But I have the Colts winning in a close matchup. But like I mentioned, I could see this going either other way. Moving on to the next matchup, San Fran's traveling out to Washington to face the 49ers. No major news on either team. As far as injuries, 49ers, of course, they're still banged up, even though they're doing really well this year. DJ Jones hasn't practiced with a hamstring injury. Kyle Juszczyk hasn't returned to practice with his knee injury. Mike McGlinchey's still out with his knee injury. Raheem Mostert hasn't practiced this week with a knee injury. Deebo Samuel hasn't practiced this week with a groin injury. Joe Staley has yet to return to practice with his fibula injury. Kilo Witherspoon is still out with his foot injury. And then, of course, Dee Ford's still dealing with a quadricep injury. He's been limited. George Kittle's been limited this week with a groin injury, and Quan Williams has been limited with a hand injury. On the Redskins front, Josh Norman has not practiced this week with a thigh and hand injury. Chris Thompson has not practiced with a toe injury, and then Vernon Davis has been limited with his concussion. Guys, as far as how this game's going to go, Redskins, bad team. 49ers, amazing team, right? Their defense is great. Their running defense is great. I mean, they're just going to get after AP, bottle him up, and then once they bottle him up, they're just going to tear apart that terrible offensive line of the Redskins and get after Case Keenum and force him into mistakes. I think 49ers handle their business. They're going to run the ball. They're going to Jimmy G will, hit little slants here and there. He's not going to have to win them the game. So I think the Redskins are just that bad of a team. They're going to be picking in the top 5 of this year's draft. And I have the 49ers easily winning this game by 10-plus points. That's why this is a quick preview, because I have no hope for their – I mean, if anybody's a long-time listener, I can always paint a picture for somebody to win a game. And if I had to paint a picture for the Redskins to win this game, it's basically the 49ers whole team getting hurt. And then moving on to the Next game, Arizona is traveling out to New York to face the Giants. So we got two first-round quarterbacks going at it between Kyler Murray and Daniel Jones. No news, but as far as injuries with the Cardinals, Zach Allen hasn't practiced with a neck injury. David Johnson and Christian Kirk have both been limited with their ankle injuries. And then Andy Lee's limited with a hip injury. On the Giants front, Sterling Shepard is not expected to play with his concussion. But it does look like Saquon Barkley and Evan Ingram are going to return for the Giants. So that's going to be a major boost for their offense. As far as how I think this game's going to go, I think both defenses are pretty bad. So I think this is going to be an opportunity for both the rookie quarterbacks to entertain us through the air. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a really great game. Evan Ingram, if anybody knows fantasy football, the Cardinals' defense against tight ends terrible. Evan Ingram's probably set to have a big day, especially with Sterling Shepard more than likely not playing. I think it's going to be an exciting shootout type of game. I got the Giants winning, though, because it is at home. It's a West Coast team coming out to the East Coast playing at the 1 o'clock time. Usually that doesn't bode well for those teams. So I have the Giants winning in a close matchup because both defenses aren't that great. I think we're going to see some big explosion plays throughout the day, but I got the Giants winning by about 3 or 4 points. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on into the second set of games, the afternoon games on Sunday. The Chargers are traveling out to Tennessee to face the Titans. With the Chargers, Russell Okung could return as early as this week. He had a pulmonary embolism. I think that's how you say it. I probably totally butchered that, but he could return. I believe that he actually should be set to return on Sunday. And with the Titans, a couple things. Ryan Tannehill is officially named the starter now from here on out, going with the Titans. So, like I mentioned with KC's Patrick Mahomes injury, maybe Mariota could be potentially traded at one point. And then Jeffrey Simmons, their first-round pick, he has returned to practice, kind of like with the JPP. He's got that 21-day practice window before the team needs to activate him to the 53-man roster. So we'll see when he's able to return and give a much-needed boost to the Titans' defense. As far as injuries, though, for both teams heading into the game, Nasir Adderley has yet to return to practice for the Chargers with a hamstring injury. Melvin Ingram has yet to return to practice with his hamstring injury. Justin Jackson's hasn't returned to practice with a calf injury. Justin Jones with a shoulder injury. Brandon Mebane has a knee injury. He hasn't practiced. And then Trent Scott, who has filled in for Russell Okung, he's been limited this week with an ankle injury. And then on the Titans front, Jaylen Brown hasn't practiced this week with the groin injury. Cameron Wake is now practicing. He's been limited with a hamstring injury. Jarrell Casey has been limited with a shoulder injury, and Delaney Walker has been limited with an ankle injury. As far as how I think this game could go, I can see either team winning it. Titans are at home. They got Ryan Tannehill now. Maybe that gives a boost for the Titans. I really don't see that because I'm not the biggest believer in Tannehill. Basically, I think he's Marcus Mariota 2.0 that could maybe get moved to chains more often than what Mariota could at this point of the season. Chargers obviously are really banked up too, so that's why obviously that does help the Titans out. I think this game, it's going to be a low-scoring game, a defensive battle. I think the Chargers win because they've kind of dropped the last few games. After seeing Mahomes go down with his injury, I'm sure the eyes open wide for the Chargers, like, hey, we might have a chance to get back in this thing and try to win the division. So obviously they probably want to take any AFC West, whether it's the Raiders, the Chargers, and obviously we saw what the Broncos are, so I shouldn't even mention them. But obviously the Raiders or Chargers are looking at this Mahomes injury like, hey, we got to win these games while that dude's out. So maybe even the Raiders, I didn't even touch upon this. Maybe that gives them the extra boost against the Packers. So I think this is going to give that extra boost for the Chargers. And I think the Chargers find a way to win a very close defensive battle. I'm talking like a 17-16 type win for the Chargers. But I can see it going either other way for the Titans. But I am going to go ahead and pick the Chargers to win this because I think they have a lot more to play for at this point. And then moving on to the next game, New Orleans Saints are traveling up to Chicago to face the Bears. No news, but as far as injuries, Well, on the Saints side, Drew Brees has yet to return to practice with his thumb. Traquan Smith hasn't practiced this week with his ankle injury. Now, the most notable thing, Alvin Kamara has yet to practice this week with his ankle and knee injury. The Friday report is going to be something to monitor because if Alvin Kamara can't go on the road against that Bears defense, makes it a lot difficult. Yes, the Saints have been winning. They're kind of on a roll right now with Teddy, but if Alvin Kamara can't be out there, it's significantly going to hurt their chances. Jared Cook, he has yet to practice as well with his ankle injury. So, I mean, yes, Alvin Kamara is huge. I mean, Jared Cook has came on. He's coming along the last couple of weeks, connecting with Teddy on a couple of touchdowns. But if those two guys can't go, I mean, basically it's Teddy and Michael Thomas. So that's really going to hurt their chances. Making me considering my pick here. It's going to be a big practice report for the Saints heading into this matchup. And then with the Bears, Mitchell Trubisky is set to return. He's fully practiced this week. Couple big hits, though, for the Bears. Kyle Long went on the IR. His season is done, so their offensive line takes a hit. Akeem Hicks has been placed on IR, but he does have a chance to return in 8 weeks. So obviously if the Bears are making a playoff push and they have a chance, he could return later in the season, but that defensive line was able to perform without him in the meantime when he was out the 1 week. And then other than that, no major names were on the Bears injury report. They're relatively healthy outside the guys that had to go on the IR. As far as this game, man, I confidently pick the Saints, assuming that Alvin Kamara would play. Even if Jared Cook was out, if Alvin Kamara's out there, I like their chances. But, I mean, if Kamara misses this game, and then on top of that, even if just Kamara misses this game, that hurts the Saints' chances. If Cook misses it with Kamara, I could definitely see the Bears winning. Trubisky's coming back. It's at home. You could basically our John Stocco, our Bears beat writer for Blitzalytics, he wrote about it yesterday of why this is a must win for Chicago. Man, I feel like as I'm sitting here talking to you guys, I want to say Chicago wins this. Close defensive battle. It's a must win for them. Alvin Kamara, even if he plays, is going to be less than 100%. I'm going to take Chicago, and I'm actually going to have to remind myself to go back in the Blitzalytics pick'em sheet, switch it. I think Chicago wins this. It's at home. Trubisky's back. It's a must-win for them. Saints are banged up. Saints honestly have kind of got not lucky, but Saints have gotten on a roll without Drew Brees. It seems like they were destined to at least drop at least one game without Brees. So if they're going to drop at least one game, it makes sense on the road against the Bears defense without 100% Alvin Kamara. So I'm going to say Bears win. Low scoring game, 20-17 Bears win. And then I'm going to go on to my next game. Baltimore is traveling out to Seattle. Really excited about this matchup between Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson. No news on either team. As far as injuries, though, Marquise Brown has yet to practice with his ankle injury. Patrick Unwasar has yet to return to practice with his ankle injury. Ronnie Staley has been limited with his knee injury. And then Jimmy Smith, I don't know if he will return this week, but he's returned to practice in a limited form with that knee injury. Obviously, if he can return with Jimmy Smith, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, and Brandon Carr, I mean, that's a 1-4 solid set of cornerbacks. I mean, talk about no-fly zone, right? And then with the Seahawks, Dwayne Brown has yet to practice with his bicep injury. Bradley McDougald has not practiced with his back injury. Ziggy Ansah has not practiced with his ankle injury. DJ Fluker returned to practice this week. He's been limited with his hamstring injury. As far as how I think this game's going to go, man, I'm picking the Seahawks because it's at home. Baltimore traveling out there. But, I could see it going either other way because Baltimore just got a boost with Marcus Peters. That should help their secondary out. But I think this is going to be a game that it's put on a show between Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson. Two exciting quarterbacks that can move the ball, through the air, on the ground with their legs. But I think I'm going to take the veteran team, the MVP of the NFL right now, and Russell Wilson. I'm going to trust on him making less mistakes than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson still has some room to grow. I'm also not completely sold on the Ravens. I do think they have some holes on that defensive front. They can struggle to stop the run, struggle to generate pass rush. I still want to see more out of Lamar Jackson as a pass thrower. Yes, we saw him perform that good at the beginning of the season, but those were against weaker defenses. Seahawks defense, I'm not sold on their pass defense, but if they're at home, usually their defense will play better at home. And the Seahawks did get Jerron Reed back from a suspension this week. I'm gonna take the Seahawks. I think they end up winning by like 5 to 7 points by the end of it. And then I'm gonna move on to the Sunday night game. A big divisional matchup. Basically, you can argue NFC East is on the line. Both teams are 3-3. Philadelphia is traveling to Dallas to face the Cowboys. As far as news, no news. Both teams are actually pretty banged up right now. With the Eagles front, Nigel Bradham hasn't practiced with an ankle injury. Deshaun Jackson has not practiced with an abdomen injury. Tim Jernigan has not practiced with a foot injury. Avonte Maddox hasn't practiced with a concussion and neck injury. And Jason Peters has not practiced with a knee injury. And Darren Sproles has not practiced with a quadricep injury. And then Ronald Darby has been limited this week, so maybe he can return and help. That's much needed help in the secondary. We will see. And then with the Cowboys, Anthony Brown hasn't practiced with the hamstring. Randall Cobb hasn't practiced with the back. Amari Cooper hasn't practiced with an ankle and quad injury. I think he's going to end up missing this week. Byron Jones has not practiced with a hamstring injury. Zach Martin was not a DNP with his back and ankle injury. Some bright spots, though, is Tyron Smith has been practicing in a limited form with his ankle injury, as well as Lyle Collins with his knee injury. As far as how I think this game's going to go, I think this is one of those classic divisional matchups, classic NFC East matchup. I can see either team winning because both teams are banged up. I think, though, if Amari Cooper can't play, that really hurts his chances. I mean, we all know the splits with Dak Prescott with and without Amari Cooper. We saw how bad he played when Amari Cooper did go down with that injury last week. And if there's one weak part of the secondary, of the Eagles is their secondary, right? And if Amari Cooper can't play, if Randall Cobb can't play, then they're going to need a huge game out of Michael Gallup. I really like Michael Gallup. I just don't know if he can take over a game quite yet in his career. I do think he can potentially be that type of player. I think he's about a year away. As you guys know, they've been a third-year wide receiver, so it's probably why I think that. But, yeah, I think this can go either way. I mean, obviously, if Tyron Smith can return, Lowell Collins can play. Obviously, Zach Martin's healthy enough to play as well. And if they can get the run game going with Zeke, I would like their chances, especially at home. I don't know. I think maybe things are kind of reeling for the Cowboys. Just kind of got that. I have that feel things aren't going that well with Jason Garrett and the Cowboys. So I trust Doug Peterson and the Eagles coaching staff more to correct this thing over the Cowboys. So I'm going to pick the Eagles. Close win. Like I said, I can see it going either way, but I think the Eagles will win like 27-24 on Sunday night. And then as far as the Monday night matchup, there are a couple news. The Monday night matchup, of course, is the Patriots and Jets. As far as my game predictions and injury updates and everything, stay tuned. Tune into the Monday episode when I'll cover that. As far as the Patriots, though, Michael Bennett, we haven't really seen him much. He hasn't played much this year, surprisingly, for the Patriots. We all thought that was a great move for the Patriots in the offseason. But he's been suspended for one game. He actually came out and said, on Friday I had a philosophical disagreement with my position coach, Brett Bielema, that has led to my suspension. I apologize to my teammates for any distraction that may have caused. Now, I don't know if that's like a coaching philosophy difference. I don't know. Michael Bennett's kind of a free thinker, open-minded guy. So I don't know if this is like a real life type thing, where they disagreed on things, whether it's politics or whatever the case may be. I'm not going to make any assumptions, but he's suspended for one game. But to be honest with you, that really doesn't matter much because he hasn't really played for the Patriots. I wouldn't be honestly surprised if the Patriots try to trade him and get something out of him to maybe trade him back to the Philadelphia because they kind of need some help with their pass rush right now. And then with the Jets, CJ Mosley did say this week that he is going to play. That's a major impact. They need him on that defense, especially going against the Patriots. And who knows, maybe he can help give that boost and maybe upset the Patriots on Monday night. Tune in to Monday. I might give a prediction on that. Now, all right, Rob, producer question. What kind of impact does Jalen Ramsey make in LA and can they get back in the thick of things with the playoff picture, or is it too little too late? I do think they can get back in the playoff picture. Obviously, they need to win games. They need to stack up wins, and if there's an opportunity to start stacking up wins, it definitely starts in Atlanta. As far as his impact, Jalen Ramsey is the type of guy and the type. I think I don't think he is necessarily right now, hands down, the best cornerback in the league, because it's so difficult to say who is. You can make an argument for Patrick Peterson. You can make an argument for Stephon Gilmore out of New England. I mean, there's tons of guys you can make an argument for. I think Ramsey has what it takes in the skill set and the talent and the mindset that he can be the best. If he can get back to how he was playing last couple of years, now that he's on a new team, new energy boost, he's the type of guy that, like I mentioned when I gave my preview, you can go put him on Julio and he can lock him down. Let's talk about in division. He's got the talent where you can go on the 49ers. You can go say, hey, I want you to cover George Kittle all day. He can cover George Kittle all day. He's got the size. I think he's got the capability of, hey, go line up in the slot and you cut off Russell Wilson's connection with Tyler Lockett. And he can shut down certain areas of the field. And then you got to talk about, they got Aaron Donald, right? So if they got some guy that can generate pass rush with Aaron Donald, try to get Dante Fowler going, his old teammate in Jacksonville, and then you got one guy that can totally shut down a part of the field, I think that can help out their defense, because Marcus Peters was too inconsistent, too trying to make things happen. He was going out of script, I think, sometimes too often, not following along with the plan. And this is an upgrade over that. I think they need to get the offense. The defense can get right with this type of move, but the biggest thing for the Rams is the offense. They have to get that thing going. I think they can still push for their goal right now has to be the wild card. And then while they try to put themselves in the wild card picture, they got to hope the Seahawks and 49ers start dropping some games, and then they can worry about maybe winning in the NFC West. Their focus needs to be on winning week by week. I know it's cliche as hell, but go 1-0, stack up wins. That needs to be. I think they got the talent, they got the coaching staff, so that's why I won't count them out yet. But like I kind of was saying, if they somehow drop the ball against Atlanta, then what do you do? And then go ahead, guys. I just want to thank, as always, thank you for tuning into this episode. If you like what you see, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. If you guys love the show on YouTube and you want to listen to it on the road because you're busy, you can't play this video, or if you're listening to this on the Blitzalytics Podcast Network, please go to YouTube. You can watch my ugly mug talk about football. Go to Blitzalytics Podcast Network too, though, guys. We're on all major platforms: Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher. Just if you go to Google and search Blitzalytics Podcast Network, you'll find us. We got the Blitz Breakdown on there. We got the Pick Six on there. I believe we're going to have an XFL podcast eventually. And then obviously my other podcast with my with my producer of this show and my co-host of it, the Fantasy Football Hot Seat. Me and Rob, we talk fantasy football, starts, sits, studs, duds, waiver wire targets, trade targets. Guys, tune in for that, because if you like what I have to say on this, you got to listen to what I have to say on that, and Rob too, because both of us have been hitting, man. We've been, me and Rob are some pretty humble guys, but we've been pretty correct on the fantasy side of things too. So please tune into that. That comes out every Wednesday. Then, of course, please go support All Heart Charity League. It's 10 different teams, 10 different charities. Go to go.rallyup.com/allheart, and you can pick and choose which charity you want to donate to. It's for a great cause, guys, so make sure you do that. And then other than that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. And also, I forgot to plug myself. Please go follow me at Twitter at Cody Talks NFL. Other than that, enjoy Sunday's games. A lot of great games I just talked about. I'll see you guys on Monday. Blitz out.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.